Knowledge is power. Make an impact by learning more. Call us right now for more help at 866-945-8070. Okay, and I am actually officially starting the recording now. Okay, so just to recap real quick, Airtable is a relational database. It's a tool that lets you build relational databases. So we're going to start with a use case where I want to build, let's just pretend for a minute like I was going to build accounting software with Airtable, and we'll just use the example of the client list. The truth is I have my clients listed in my Nerd HQ base. I'm now building something out here which is becoming something of a command central for how I run Nerd Enterprises, right? And so I have actually in here a list of all my clients. And within that, I have another table where I'm able to associate which bookkeeper or staff member is working on each client, right? And that makes it really nice. And then as some of you know, my whole model is built around a revenue share, right? Not your traditional salaried or hourly compensation model. So next to each client, I list what their monthly fee is and what the revenue share is that's being paid to the person who works on that client for me. And when it comes time to run payroll now, I have a table. I can pivot on that table basically and quickly group it in such a way that I can see what that person gets paid for this pay period. So I'm even using Airtable to run my payroll, and then I report it to Paychecks. That's who I actually use to run my payroll. So a couple of housekeeping things with regard to Airtable. You'll see over here I have Workspaces, right? So at first I thought, oh, cool, I can create all these workspaces to organize the different projects that I'm working on. But be careful because this plays right into the fee structure of Airtable. So you only want to create a new workspace if you're prepared to pay. In other words, you pay per collaborator per workspace. So if I have two different projects with you, and I keep both projects in one workspace, I'm only paying for you once. If I put a project in another workspace and put you in that project as well as one in the first workspace, now I'm paying for you twice, right? So you got to be really careful. This can start to get very expensive very quickly. That's the downside. The upside is it's a really powerful tool that makes it easy to track anything you want to. All right, so we're going to create. Yeah.
Is there a data limit within a workspace that would force you to start a new one at some point in time, or is it kind of unlimited within a workspace?
No, but the pricing limits you to so many records across all of your databases. So the plan that you go into, as you upgrade and pay more, you're allowed more records to keep, right? So, but it's a big number. It's like 10,000 records when you're starting at like $20 a month, which is where I'm at with this. So you're probably not going to hit that limit unless you're building something really big. At that point, hopefully you're building that because you have some kind of a revenue stream that justifies it, right? So, all right, so really easy to create something new. You just click here where it says add a base. So each one of these things is called a base or a database. And I'm going to start from scratch. Okay, and it wants me to give it a name. So we'll just call this my client list or something like that, right? Because that's the first example we're going to do. And I click in, and you can color code it. You can change the colors. That stuff's really easy to do, right? I don't like that color, though. Let's change it. Okay, so of course, if you're working with a lot of different bases, that's important stuff just for recognition. It just makes it visual so I know really quickly what I'm looking for. It kind of catches my eye, right? So now we have a table, and as you can see from this plus sign, I can add an infinite number of tables going across, right? My general rule is I never want to repeat something in its source table, right? So if the first table is going to be my client list, what I might keep in here is the name of each client and maybe some of their contact information, right? So one client might be a company called Your Business Matters. See what I did there? Some of you get that. It's clear that Laura's not paying any attention right now. All right, so, and by default, it gives you 3 columns anytime you create a new table: a name, the notes, and the attachments. So sometimes what I do, because I'm almost always going to want these columns in here because they're useful, but while I'm trying to build a table, they get in the way. So I click right here where it says hide fields, and boom, boom. That gets them out of the way for the time being.
At least you didn't hide my name.
What?
At least you didn't hide my company name.
No, it actually won't let you because this first column is your primary field, right? So the idea, if you understand what I was talking about earlier when I talked about Access and FileMaker with databases, there's always what's called a key field, and that field typically should not have anything repeated. Every line item in that field, a field is a column, right? Every line item in that field should be unique, right? It doesn't have to be that way. They don't restrict you in that sense, but it's a good sort of place to work from when you're trying to build this stuff. It'll help you understand when it's time, for example, to create a new table, right? Versus adding something to an existing one. And I'll explain what I mean by that. But first, let's build out what do we want to track about our client, right? The first thing is we want to probably know who's the owner of that company, right? So I added a new field. By default, it'll just, any new field, it just creates a simple text field. If I double click the column, I can get right back into the dialog, right? And maybe I'll call this contact name, right? Or I might want to do first and last separate, right? So I'll do first, single line text. Let's add another field, last, single line text, right? And usually I build a table around an actual record. It just helps me to think through what information do I need here, right? Laura, help me out here. S-A-B-B-A-U-G-H, is that right? No, no U.
No U.
All right. Next, maybe I want the cell, her cell phone. All right, Laura, you don't have to give out your real cell phone for this, but most importantly, I want to show you that there is a field type, and I just clicked on the drop-down for that, specifically for phone number, right? So watch this. If I just do, you can enter the number without any of the formatting symbols, no parentheses, no dashes, or sometimes we like to put dots between each part. Don't type any of that. If I just do 516-555-1212, enter, it will automatically format it like a phone number, which is really cool. It just makes it really easy to read. Okay, so we have a cell. We probably want the business line, right? So again, click the drop down. You can start typing phone so you can search. So you don't have to scroll through the list looking if you know exactly what you're looking for. Just start typing in the search and it filters the list real quick for the type of field that you want to create. All right, and then maybe this is 800-555-1212. And enter, right? And so this may be all I want to track about companies. Obviously, I probably want their website, right? And again, we have a field type for a URL. So I'll do that. Laura, what is it? Yourbusinessmatters.com?
URBIZ matters.com. Somebody has my URL.
Perfect. Well, not perfect on that, but anyway.
Well, yeah,
all right,
they want to sell it for $1,000, whatever.
All right, who else wants their business in this list? Michelle, what's the name of your business?
Crane Shot Solutions.
Crane. What solutions?
Shot. Crane Shot.
Oh, Crane Shop.
California. Yeah.
I know, but I'm
Crane
slow
Shop
because I'm in California. All right, and we'll do 805-555-1212, something like that, right? And then 866-212. Website?
CraneShotSolutions.com.
Perfect. Okay, and we'll do one more. Alexa, you wanna play?
Sure.
All right, what's the official name of your Add Insights?
Add, 2 words. No, 1 word. 2 words.
Right.
Add Insight. No S.
Got
no
it.
S. Okay.
Okay. All right, and we'll just make up another phone number here. And what's your website?
Addinsight.net.
Perfect. All right, what it's doing to me here is because I'm on the last available line, it's letting me know if I want to add a new row, I have to hit Shift plus Enter. Otherwise, I can just do like Shift Tab to tab back, and back it up, right? And there's a reason you don't necessarily want to have blank rows in here. And the reason is because when you start linking to this table from another table, those blank rows show up and they get in the way, right? So it's, again, best practice, don't have extra blank lines in here. So now that I have my client list, I want to have my sort of employee or consultant list, right? I want to create the list of the people who are working on each of these clients, right? So the next thing I want to do is create my, I'll call it employees and subcontractors, something like that. So I'm going to create a new empty table and call it employees and subs, right? And so I have Erica, Ed. I don't need to break it up first and last. And I'll do Kelly Jewel is my other newest hire. And now what I want to do, again, I'm going to hide the notes and attachments for now. We can bring those back in after. But now what I want to do is I want to link Erica to all the clients that she works on and Kelly to all the clients that she works on, right? This is how you'll start to see immediately the power of Airtable. So we're going to create a linked field. So when I click the plus sign, I'm going to go straight down to here and click here where it says link to another record, right? This is critical. It's going to ask me where to get that other record from, right? Either the place that I'm in. You could link to another record within the same table. I'm not sure why you ever would. But so, of course, I'm going to choose client list, right? And then the question is, do I allow linking to multiple records? In this case, definitely, because I need to be able to link the same person to every client they work for, right? So I'm going to click Save. And then actually, I'm going to go back and rename it because I forgot to name the field. So I'm going to say client, right? And now what we're going to do is we're going to, let's say Erica, so I click that, the plus sign, and now I can say Erica's going to work on your business matters, right? And then we're going to assign Kelly to Crane Shot Solutions. And then we're going to give Add Insight over to Erica. Okay, so now, and again, this is where it starts to get powerful. You can see it shows the multiple selections, right? But where this starts to get really useful is now I can create different views, right? So I'm trying to think. No, I'm not going to do it there. Over here, when you click this arrow, this drop down that's next to the name of this is called the view, what you're looking at here. In fact, see where it says grid view? I can actually double click this and I can just call it main list, because then if I click this arrow next to it, I can actually create other views, right? So I can create a form off of this table. I can get a calendar view if there's anything date-based in there. I can do a gallery, which we'll look at later. It's actually a really cool way you can lay out a table. And then a Kanban view, which you should all be familiar with from our many project management apps that we look at, where the Kanban view is kind of like Trello, where it lays it out in that kind of a format, right? And there's some of these have implications in terms of the kinds of things that need to be included in the table in order for them to work effectively, such as the calendar. We need some kind of a date-based field, of course, in order for that to work. So let's say I want to create a different view off of this main list, because what I'm going to do in a second is I'm going to want to group this, right? So what I want to do is all the way here to the right, again, this little margin here, this little white row just below the blue section is the menu that refers to the view itself within the table that I'm working on. So if I click this little guy right here, this little menu, I can duplicate the view. So I'm going to do that, because I always want that main grid, that raw list, right? So I can easily work in that list and add information in. That's useful. Here, I'm going to want to group it, right? Let's just say by employee. And once I've got that, we're going to click this group option. And it's pretty easy to use. It says pick a field to group by. and I choose name. And in an instant, and this is another reason why we don't want empty records. Let me delete that. In an instant, it shows me Erica, and here I can see the clients that Erica works on. Right, and I can see Kelly and the clients that Kelly works on. Right, makes it really, really easy to quickly organize the information. You can't do this in Smartsheet. You can't even do this in a spreadsheet. Right, a spreadsheet you would have to create like it works a lot like a pivot table, but pivot tables require values to be involved. You need numeric values to be involved. You can't simply pivot like this on the basis of text-based information or alphanumeric information. So that's one of the key differences. Now let's go back. So now I can toggle my views by clicking that arrow. I can go back to my main list. Right, and after a while, this just gets easier than having to group and remove the grouping. Right, I like having the separate groups because then as I add things to this and I switch back over to the group view, it's just going to be there. Right, so again, this grid view, the main list, is easier to work on when I'm just adding stuff. So now let's take it a step further, using the kind of use case
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
So I was just working on developing a list of my clients and a list of my services.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wanted to create a chart so that I could see what services each client was getting. Seems like this would be a perfect use for that.
Definitely, without a doubt. So you would have a table with your client list like I've started to do here, and a separate table just listing the services that you offer. And you might have a name field just describing the name of the service, probably exactly as it appears on your website, let's say, and then maybe another column with a long text description for each service, right? That would just be useful information to have in that context. But yes, definitely.
Maybe even a price if I want to use it for pricing.
Beautiful. Yeah, in fact, now that you mentioned that, let me jump over to something, and this is one that I did a video on my blog recently. The use Airtable to track your app ecosystem. Since you mentioned prices, this will probably give you some ideas. If I jump over to this, here's the, again, I have the grid view. This is just a list of all these apps, right? And I created, columns for the app genre, where I describe, is it a project management app? Is it a scheduling app? So on and so forth. I created a status column for myself to describe which ones am I using, which ones aren't. Right, but talking about the pricing, I said, I want to create a table here that looks at the pricing plans for these apps. So I still have some work to do on this, but I just started building it out. So it's obviously, it's as you can see here, it's grouped by app. And then what I did in this table is I went onto their websites and I just researched, okay, so G Suite has 3 plans, basic, business, and enterprise, just like you might have 3 plans that you offer for a particular service, right? The app here is G Suite. I could actually hide this because I know it's G Suite, right? So we can actually hide the app field. It's not needed. Right, here I have the link right to their pricing page, right? This is just a column that shows the number of users that would be included at each of these levels, so I know the pricing is based on this number of users. Some apps you have to have like 3 users to start with. And then here, of course, is the pricing. So this is monthly, and this is annual. But this is annual based on annual billing, right? This is monthly pricing billed annually, because they all price it like that, right? They give you, they tell you it's so much per month, but the only way you actually get that rate is when you pay for a whole year. And I've gotten savvy to that little trick. So then here I show, here's the monthly pricing if it's actually billed monthly, right? Now in G Suite, there's no distinction, but now look at ShareFile, look at the difference, right? And so then further out, I actually added in more columns, and you can do formulas. I'll show you how to do this, where I said, okay, so here's the monthly pricing billed monthly. So here's the annual pricing for monthly billing. And then here's what I saved by signing up for annual. Because sometimes it's not worth parting with all that cash up front for what you wind up saving, right? So again, this is an example of where and this took a few sit downs where I said, I want to add this. Now I want to look at this, and I didn't sit down planning to do this savings analysis, but then I said, no, this is incredibly useful, right? So, just to give you some ideas, Alexa, for how you can start thinking in terms of how to lay out your use case, a lot of similar dynamics here in this example. All right, by the way, similar to Slack and a lot of other apps now, if I want to jump from one base to the next, control and the letter K, like ketchup, I can go back to, what did I call it? Accounting. I thought I called it accounting something. my client list. That's what I called it. So Control K, if you know what you're searching for, you can type in a few letters and quickly jump from one base to the next. Right, so now let's do kind of like what I described I have in my case, you know, where I have a monthly fee that I charge the client and a revenue share, because then we'll get into how to write some of those formulas. Because when I do that, then I want another column that's going to say, all right, take the monthly fee that I charge the client minus the revenue share, so I can see how much goes to the house, right? How much goes to House of Nerd. So let's add another column here. Okay, and we're going to call this, actually, no, I take it back. Let's back up. This is just the employee list. I want a new table. I'm going to call this client fees and rev share. Right, why do I want a new table here? Because this one has multiple clients on a single line, right? When I do this, I need to describe one client per line. And you'll see why as it comes together, right? So in here, in the first thing, I really want the client, but because this is the key field, the primary field, I can't use this. I can't use this field and link to another record. That option is simply not here. You have a few limitations on what you can do with your primary field. So I'm going to ignore this for a minute, but I'm going to come back to it and show you what to do with it. All right. Again, let's hide notes and attachments. And let's go add in. Here I want the client, right? So again, we're going to link to another record, and we're going to go to the initial client list for that. We are not going to allow linking to multiple records here. Here, I want the employee. Again, we're going to link to another record, and that's going to go to employees and subs. And again, we're not going to allow linking to multiple records. Here, we do want to repeat each employee for each client that they work on. Okay, so now we're going to still skip that for now. So the client, we're going to say, there's going to be your business matters. And I take it back. We're not going to do this as a linked field, because watch what we can do now. We're going to do this as a lookup. Because I already have a table that tells me once I've chosen which employee works on that client, right? So might as well use that. Might as well not, you know, never want to have to repeat entering data more than once if I can avoid it. So we're going to look up the client. And let me just take a look at this for a second. And I think I want to look it up there. Boom. So what I did was, just to go over that, I'm looking up the client, which is the column, you know, in this table. But where am I going to look for it? In the employees and subs table. Right? So by doing that, it looks up Erica for me. Over here, I'm going to choose another client. We'll choose Crane Shot. In an instant, it brings up Kelly. Because once you configure this, it's configured for the whole column no matter what. And then we're going to bring in the next one, add insight, and it's going to bring up Erica again. So I would love to be able to use this as a lookup for the client, because that's really the primary thing here that I'm looking at. Since I can't do that, here's what I'm going to do. And this is my way of, you know, just kind of thinking a little bit outside the box. I can't do a lookup, or I can't do a linked record here, but I can do some formulas. I'm going to call this client / bookkeeper, right? And over here, we're going to do a formula. And for those of you who use Excel, you're going to recognize this. Concatenate. So what I can do here, once you choose which formula you want to write, notice it's got my flashing cursor inside the parentheses. It's small, so you have to be steady with your mouse, but you want to click in there so you can actually write the formula. So once I click in there, I want client, comma, quote, space, because I want a space there. Actually, let's do space, dash, space, close the quote, comma, and then I'm going to choose employee. And it's important, you do need to have something in here. You can't just leave it blank, because if I link from anywhere else to this table, this is where it's going to pull the information from. It's going to take whatever's here. So what I've done very simply is created a field that combines the client and the employee in a single descriptor using that concatenate formula, right? And Excel concatenate is how we combine two things of text, two or more pieces of text, right? So it was just when I ran into this and I thought, oh, what am I going to do about this? This is what I came up with, right? Because again, if I go into another table and I want to link to here, when you link to another table, when I use this to link to the client table, it can only pull whatever is in that primary or key field. It's only going to pull what's in this first column. Once I have that, I can do lookups to look up something from one of the other columns based on what's here. And that's exactly what I did for the employee, right? I had it look up the employee exactly that way. Okay, so now let's start adding in the other stuff that we need. So over here, I'm going to say, actually, back up. Let's go to the client list. The client list is probably where I want to have the monthly fee. So let's create a currency-based field and call it monthly fee. And I'm putting this here in the client list because the monthly fee is going to be unique to each client, so it belongs here for that reason, right? And over here, the field type, I'm going to do currency. Okay, and then you can just go through the dialog here and decide what kind of formatting you want, whether or not you want to allow negative numbers, and you can put a default value in there, which I'm not going to do. All right, so let's say we're charging Laura. What should we charge Laura each month? Let's charge her
$97.
No, that's not enough. We need to charge $1,000 a month. All right, and then Michelle, what are we going to charge Michelle? We'll give Michelle a break. We're going to charge her only $500 a month.
Dang.
And then Alexa, we're going to go in the middle and charge $750. All right. So now let's go back to client fees and revenue share. First thing I want to do is look up what the client monthly fees are for this particular client, right? And then I'm going to add in the revenue share that goes to the employee, and then we're going to figure in the difference. Okay? So over here, we're going to do a lookup field type, right? And this is going to be monthly client fee, right? So we're looking up based on the client, and we're choosing the field monthly fee. It's in the order that it appears in the actual table. So I had to scroll a little bit because it was the last column. Okay, so that brings in the monthly fee here. Again, you never want to have to, type it twice. I don't want to have to go back and look it up. It's already in one table. The idea here is a piece of data should only ever need to be entered once, ever. Now, once I've established that the information that's being looked up is numeric in nature, then Airtable will let me go in and change the formatting. It looks at it, analyzes, and it says, okay, we've got numbers in here, so how do you want to format it? So we're going to go with currency. Right? And then again, once I've chosen currency, I can choose the precision, which is really how many decimal places, and of course, what kind of currency symbol I want, if any at all. I'll say save.
So Seth, if you have currency in the client list, but you're doing a lookup, it doesn't assume that same format.
Correct. It does. Yeah, it doesn't pull the formatting based on that, so you have to tell it. Right? So now the next one we want to do is the revenue share. Now this one we are going to key here because we have to decide client by client, bookkeeper by bookkeeper, how much of that revenue am I sharing with the bookkeeper, right? So we're going to add a column, call it revenue share, and this is also going to be currency. And
Or if you're just,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if you do like a 50% revenue share, then you could do a
formula
there.
Bingo. I was just about to say that. So two ways to do this. If you know with absolute certainty that there's never going to be an exception, you can do a formula and say, I always pay 50%, so I can write a formula based on that. The as soon as you're going to want to deviate from that, though, it's going to fail, because when you write a formula on a field here, that formula gets applied across the board, and there's no way, like in Smartsheet, where in Smartsheet I can write a different formula on each row. Here I can't.
Okay.
It's programmed at the level of the column itself. So
Oh.
again, if you know with certainty that that's always going to be the case and there's not ever going to be a single exception, then writing the formula is perfect. The other way you can do it is going back to the employees and subs. I can actually put in a revenue share percentage by name, right, by employee. And then I can do something here that kind of looks up that percentage and multiplies it by the monthly client fee. That's getting a little more complex, but that would be the ideal way to do it, because this way you don't have to worry about a deviation from the norm, right? So for now, we'll just keep it simple, and this is actually how I do it in my own real version of this, where we just key it in. So let's say that my kind of standard is I just want to pay 50% of the revenues. So 500, 250, and what's 750 divided by 2? 375?
Correct.
Something like that. And now we need a formula, because now we want house tank, right? How much does the house get? Formula. All right, let's write a formula. This is going to be really simple. We're going to, and you can use the search. So I'm going to say monthly client fee minus, you can just type out revenue share. And so it makes it really easy to build these formulas, right? Now I can go right over to formatting. Now that I've written the formula, it checks the result type, and I can say, okay, that's going to be currency, and then save. And that should work. Because it's always going to work across the board here, because it's always just going to be the difference between these two, right? So now, let's throw another monkey wrench into the mix, right? Let's go back here to employees and subs. And let's just call this payee type. And you'll see where I'm going with this. We're going to set this up as a drop down, and it's going to be a single select, meaning I can only select one of the choices that I'm going to give it. And option 1 is going to be W2. Who can guess what option 2 is going to be?
Subcontract.
1099, exactly. Now, if I want to, if I'm really into the visual part of this, I can go in here and I can choose the color. I can make it very, very pretty. I can say we're going to make W2s green, because we like W2s because, as I learned the hard way in my actual business, it's just easier to just make everybody a W2 and never have independent contractors. I did not have to send out any 1099s last year, because everybody that I paid to do stuff was an employee. Period. Much easier. So we'll make 1099s a light blue. So you have some choices there. And we're going to click Save. And so we're going to say that Erica is a W2. And we're going to call Kelly a 1099. And then let's go back over here to client fees and revenue share. And we're going to just add in another lookup that brings that information into here. But now it's not going to be based on the client. It's going to be based on the employee, right? So pay status. Lookup. This time we're looking up. It's not letting me look up the employees and subs, because there has to be something linked to that field in here. So cancel. And there's not, because remember, we got the employee as a lookup and not as a link. So there's a reason to use a link instead of a lookup, even though it can be a little redundant. But also this way I can just reassign employees here rather than doing it here. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm actually going to pull this from this table altogether, because again, I only want to have to do something once. All right, that's going to cause that to crash. Should have given me an error there. Maybe it hasn't caught up yet. All right, either way, we're going to customize the field type. We're going to turn this into a link, right? And this is going to link to employees and subs. And we're not going to allow multiple. Save. And it remembers the data that was in there. It doesn't get rid of the data. So that's cool because it makes it easy to kind of make these kind of changes and updates, right? So now I do the assigning here in this table, which actually makes more sense because, you know, this is where we're also tracking the amounts, the compensation, everything. So this way, if I want to swap one out and say, you know what, we're going to take Erica off of your business matters and put in Kelly, really easy to do. I can do it all right here, right? So it makes more sense to build it this way. And this is essentially how I've got it built in my real one. Okay, and so what I'm also trying to make sure, I'm hoping I'm illustrating this clearly, is where you start to see how to make the decisions about, you know, where the data source lives versus where you're going to link to something versus do a lookup. You know, these are all considerations, and a lot of it's going to come from experience just building this stuff and running into little snags like I just did, and you say, oh, you know what, so it makes more sense to do it this way, and it changes your whole workflow. But at the end of the day, you've got a really good workflow based on, you know, how you want things laid out. So now what I can do, because I have a nice easy list that shows me each client and each bookkeeper and the fees and such, is let's group this by employee. But remember, before we group, what do we want to do? Let's see who's paying attention.
You need to save it or copy it, duplicate it.
Bingo, Kelly. Gold star. Yeah, because I always want to keep a simple grid view intact, so that it's easy to work with that data to add stuff in, and then use the grouping in a separate view. So we're going to duplicate the view, right? I always double check over here because sometimes I forget where I'm at to make sure I haven't already done it. If I haven't already done it, we duplicate the view, and we call this just by employee or something like that. And once I've got that view created, we're going to click group. Pick a field to group by, and let's do it by employee. So now what's cool about this is I can see, all right, so Erica works on these two clients. Now do you see how this starts to look really slick? Because I can see Erica works on these two clients, right? And these clients pay $1,017.750 for a total of $1,750. The revenue share is this much. This is the house take. So I know this is what Erica's getting paid each month for these clients, right? Now let's take this one step further, because remember, I have Erica who's paid as a W-2 and Kelly who's paid as a 1099. So what I can do is I can go back into the grouping and add one more layer to this, and let's add in the status. Where did my status go? Have I not brought the status into this view yet? Let's check. I thought I did. I did not. All right, so we have a column here. Pay status. This is going to be a lookup. That's right, I started to, and then I got stuck because there was no linked field that was being done as a lookup itself. So now that I have a field in this table that's linked to employees and subs, I can do a lookup based on employees and subs, right? So I want to look up the employee, and I want the payee type. Bingo. Now, let's go back to our grouped view by employee. And we're going to pick another field to group by, payee status. But then I want to change the order, right? I want it first by payee status, then by employee. So let's go up there. And so now you can see, all right, the 1099 payee status, notice it resorts because 10 comes before W, right? And so it organizes it like this, right? And again, what's really cool about this, I can change anything from this view, but when you're making a lot of updates to this kind of thing, I find it's much easier to use the grid view. And so I can say, hey, you know what? We're gonna officially hire Kelly. Right, and now look what's happening. So this is a lookup to the payee status. So now we're about to show you, I'm going to take things one step further. And this is, again, what makes Airtable really, really cool and like light years ahead of any of these other apps that we use to track this kind of stuff. Because normally you'd think, oh no, I've got to, if I want to change Kelly and make her a W-2, now I've got to go back to where was that set up originally, right? But I don't. I can drill around from wherever I am, and here's how that works. Notice the little double-pointed diagonal arrow here, right? What that lets me do is it lets me expand that cell. And I believe I can create it from here. No, I'm totally wrong. I could swear you can do that from some records. Like I can go here into the main record. That's what I think needs to be done maybe. If I click here on this one, it's got all the details. That's what it is. Then see here it's pulling from the employee record. From here I can click in. That's what it was. I knew there was a way to do it. So now I'm really drilling into the record from these other tables. And now I can change her from here to W-2.
But it looks like you're drilling into the employee, though.
I am. That's exactly what I'm doing.
So is it that because it's a lookup, it still has to, like if it was a link, could you change it?
So yes, so what's happening here is I wanted to change Kelly's status, right? But I'm in the client piece of revenue share table. So I thought I could do it right from here, but I forgot. You have to do it from the key field. When I expand the key field, it shows me all the fields that are in that record, right? And from here, it's actually linked. So when I get to the employee field here where Kelly is, right? Or I can even go straight, see the payee status is actually, just it's a lookup. So I can't do anything with that. But over here is where the employee is actually linked to the record, right? So this is a link, not a lookup. So here I can click on this. And essentially, yeah, now I'm drilling over to that record from the employees and subs table. And notice it even shows me that. You see how it gives me that little, let me draw on this.
I love the revision history.
Yeah, the revision history is awesome. And notice this guy right here. This is what's letting me know that this particular dialogue that I'm looking at on top is actually linked from the employees and subs table.
Wow.
So that's what I've done. I've drilled from the client fees and revenue share table over to this record so I can easily make the updates from here. And yeah, the revision history is amazing, especially when you start having collaborators, of course, and other people who might have rights to edit this. Makes it huge so you can see exactly who did what and when. So you can't have people say, oh, I didn't see. What's that?
QBO could take a lesson from that.
Imagine. Well, they have the audit trail, but it's.
I know, but look at how pretty this is.
I know, yeah, that's true. That's true. So I can make that update pretty easily right from here, and then I'm backing up. Now I'm in the actual record from the client fees and rev share table. I close this, and notice now she's back to, now I've changed her to W-2 status. If we switch over to the by employee view, now everybody's a W-2, right? But within that, it's broken out between Erica and Kelly. But now notice I have, so now this is useful to me because I can also see my grand total, my whole payroll now is going to be the 22, or the, what do you call it, the revenue share, the 1125, right? And then what I did, because I pay twice a month, is I had to add in another table that shows per pay period. So that way when I run pay, so that's simple. You just take the revenue share, divide it by 2, and call it per pay period, right, in the formula. Anybody want to see me do that, or we all get that? All right, everybody gets that. I think it's pretty straightforward, right? So then when, like I said earlier, that's how I use this to run my payroll. Paychecks, one of the reasons I love Paychecks, even though it's a little old school, which is very not like me, but it makes it really easy for me. My Paychecks rep emails me every pay period and says, what are we doing for payroll? And I just email him back and say, normal revenue share, whatever it is, because he already knows who gets paid what. But before I do, I run and check this to see, because I might have added a client, I might have reassigned something that has happened. So I just go into my my equivalent database to this and confirm what Erica's getting paid and what Kelly's getting paid, and I email it back to them and let them know. Now, one point that Erica actually made to me when I was working with her yesterday was, because she knows that I'm doing this like this, I haven't shared it with her. Everything's very open the way I'm doing things as I build my company. So everybody can see what everybody else is doing and getting paid. And in a way, I feel like because of the way I'm compensating people, that's my way of trying to motivate people. Like, well, hustle, work hard, and I can give you more clients, and then you can get paid as much as the next person. So she brought up the point that I don't really have a log. I mean, I do because I have the revision history, I suppose. But if somebody came back to me 3 pay periods later and say, hey, I don't understand how my payroll was calculated 3 pay periods ago, I don't have an easy way to do that. And so I said, you know what? That's a great point. So here's a solution. Any one of these views that you have, you can download a CSV. So now every pay period, what I'm doing is I'm downloading the CSV, and I'll name it with the date of that pay period, and I'll archive that in Google Docs so that if I ever need to go back and see what it would look like back then, I have a record. Right? And now, just out of curiosity, let's see what the CSV looks like if I download it, because I haven't actually done this yet, so I'm curious myself.
Wouldn't it be better to just do a printed PDF? So because a CSV can be changed, you want something permanent.
Yeah, but nobody's going to change my CSV unless they kill me. But no, you have a good point, though. So that, yeah, that probably would be better. I just like it because done this way, I can then come in here and I can send Kelly, or I could send Erica her stuff without including Kelly's, or vice versa, right?
Right.
And then I can save this as a PDF, just so I know what I sent that person. So, but it's a good point. Yeah. So I wouldn't want to send the CSV to the employee. Right.
Yeah, or you could just lock it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Are you on a Google Sheet?
Yes, I am. Yep.
So can you like add to a Google Sheet, like add to a tab when you download?
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, again, it's going to download to the CSV, so you would have to, then convert that to Google Sheets, and then I don't know if I would want to add to it incrementally though, or just create a separate record, because for payroll purposes, I almost just want a separate record, because the payroll record itself is only going to show what I paid them. It's not going to show how I arrived at the calculation. Because I thought about that, I was like, well, Paychecks has the record, but it doesn't include how it was calculated. So if somebody has a dispute and thinks they should have been paid more because they thought they had a client by then, my records would show, no, this client wasn't a client of yours yet at that time, and here's who were the clients that you're being paid on. And so that, and Alexa's point is very well taken, that what I do send to them ultimately should be a PDF so they can't alter it. Or I think, Christine, you said about the locking the file. I'd actually prefer to just send them a PDF, because I actually once had somebody send me a locked Excel file, and I was able to crack it. And I'll tell you how I was able to crack it. They had locked it up, and they had a lot of hidden columns and records. And at the time I was working for a marketing company, and it was one of their vendors sending them something where there was clearly information they didn't want the company I was working for at the time to see, that had to do with their budgets and things. And just for the heck of it, I said, let me try this. And I took, hey, no, later. I'm in the middle of something, Ralphie. Out of curiosity, I tried to take that. I selected that whole entire tab in that Excel file and copied it and pasted it out to a brand new Excel file. And once I did that, I was able to expand and reveal all of the hidden rows and columns that they had. So don't necessarily trust the locking of Excel 100%, right? The PDF, there's clearly nothing they can do to manipulate anything. So, but yeah, so Christine, were you suggesting that we do like an incremental thing in a single Google Sheet, or you said add a tab?
Mm-hmm. Like, let's just say you have a 2018 sheet, and then each tab was every month or something.
That's true. And then I could just alongside each record put in the date, like the pay date for that. And that way I have it all in one tab. And then anytime they want to go back, that's true. That's not a bad idea. So just incrementally add it in a Google Sheet. It's actually very smart.
That's what I would think would be nicer. And then you can see if changes were made because of the history inside of that. And it's just all part of the web-based platform.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and then if you need to send it to somebody, you can filter it and then save that out as a PDF and send that off, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or, since I am kind of open and everybody's able to see everybody's compensation, I could give them a view-only access to that file and say, here, go look up, what you're paid.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could keep a separate file per person.
Yeah, or keep a separate file. For
I like that.
Which that's what you want to do if you definitely don't want people seeing what other people are being paid, right? But again, part of what I'm creating specifically includes the fact that I'm keeping like an open book kind of policy. Not that I give them access to Nerd Enterprises books and records, but when it comes to payroll, again, because of the compensation model specifically, I actually do want them to see, because I'm hoping that it'll motivate them to want to take on more, right? So again, all these are considerations, as you can see, in terms of what you're going to deliver and how and to whom. But now you can start to see the sheer power of how this is really useful from a standpoint of managing your accounting practice. It's really cool for tracking information. I love Alexa's example of using it to track the different services that you offer and at the different prices and so on. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Before I move on to a different use case, anybody have any questions, thoughts, more ideas?
I took a quick look at the pricing page. I was a little confused. Do you want to just maybe at the end to tell us?
Yeah, I'll go over that with you because I've now had firsthand experience. I started adding collaborators, and I got a bill for $960, and I panicked for a minute, but I realized that was actually for a whole year. That was the annual pricing, because I have 3 users at $20 per month each, so that's $240 per user per year. It came out to $960. So anyway, but yeah, so that's a good idea, Alex. I'll go over the pricing at the end. But it's basically, if you're on that plan, the $20 per month plan, it's $20 per collaborator per month. And a collaborator is anybody who has anything beyond view-only access. As soon as you give somebody any kind of edit rights in a workspace, remember it's by workspace, they are now a paid user, right? And the pricing is per workspace.
I was just wondering if I could get by with the free one. I was trying to figure out that, but
you can, as long as anybody else is going to be accessing it as a view-only, collaborator, so to speak. So, like any base that we work in, if I wanted to share this with somebody at my company, but I didn't want them to become a paid user, what you can do is I can, for the whole base, which is right up here, I can share it. If you invite them by link, keep in mind their status is going to be creator. That's paid. So if you change it to read only, then you won't get charged for them, right? On the other hand, what you can do is just get a link, which is down here. So you can do a shared base link. You click on here, you do a private read-only link, and then you have a few options to choose from in terms of what they can do. You can actually make them enter a password to get access to it, especially for something like this. You might want to do that so that they, even if they accidentally forward the link to somebody they shouldn't have, they would still need the password. But once you've just decided on these options, you can actually take this link and share it with anyone you want to, and they'll have view-only access to the table. Notice there's no option even to give them anything other than read-only with this method of sharing, right? It's either disable link sharing altogether, or they can have a private read-only link. That's it, right? Because imagine if you had the option here that anybody who had the link would become an editor. All of a sudden, and let's say that link got passed around, all of a sudden you'd get a bill for $10,000 for Airtable. You'd be a little surprised, right? And here then we have shared view links. So that's to share just the current view and not the whole base, right? So if I just want to share one table with somebody, right? And then I can do it as a shareable grid view, or I can create a form. And we haven't done forms yet, but I'm going to show you. Somebody who signed up, I promised I would show you how I built the form that I use for new clients on my website. So I am going to show you that process. I promised I would. So, and by the way, while we're on the subject, to create a form, again, it's just another view type where you click down here to form. And then there's a form builder tool, which again, I'm going to show you in a few minutes. But I want to show you a few other use cases, before we're done here for the day. So we have, what, about another hour left, right? 2 hours? Yeah, it's 1:30, something like that. So let's go over here. And I'm going to show you first what I've been building. I'm just starting to use this as a sample. I'm starting to build a course on accounting for e-commerce companies. And so within that, I'm creating one version of a master SKU list here. And I also show people how to do it in Smartsheet because, again, this is an example of something that serves itself really well in either tool, right? This is going to get much more expensive if I have collaborators, though. So a lot of people are going to want to do it in Smartsheet, right? But here's an example of where I'm building a product list. And let's say I'm selling these products on my website. If I go to the initial view, right, here I have the product name. And notice this actually comes from the product list. So first I have the actual product list. Right now in this example, I just have 4 products that let's say I'm selling on Amazon or wherever. Right, and I have the master SKU, and I use the example like this would be the SKU number in QBO that I associate with the product when I build it. And over here, I have a formula that tests the length of the name because QuickBooks Online won't take more than 100 characters in the name of a product in the product list, right? So that's, so that's important. I want to make sure that I don't go over that length. So going back to the master product list, we have a linked field that pulls from the product, right? We've seen how to create that. Wait a minute, no, sorry, this is long text because this is the product name as it appears on the sales channel, which isn't necessarily going to be the same as QuickBooks Online's product name because in the sales channel, and sorry, I'm going to let him out in a second so he doesn't keep disturbing us, but in the sales channel, we're writing our product descriptions oftentimes for search engine optimization purposes, right? So we have much more detailed descriptions, much more than 100 characters. So here the primary field on the master product list is the way we name it on the sales channel. Then we have the sales channel SKU, which is another basic text field because sometimes the SKU on the sales channel is going to be different than the SKU as we call it in QuickBooks Online, right? And then here I have the sales channel, right, which comes from a separate table for just sales channels. So this is an example of where I said, all right, we're going to sell on Amazon, eBay, Groupon, and Walmart, right? And what's cool about this is I can keep track of more information pertaining just to the sales channels, such as the URL where I go to log into the store and, of course, the login credentials, right? So going back to the master product list, this is chosen. So every time I sell a product on the same sales channel, it gets repeated for each sales channel. And then, of course, I'm going to map it to the SKU as it appears in QBO. That way, I always have the ability to do a lookup and a link between what it's called on Amazon or eBay versus what it is on the actual sales channel. Somebody just doesn't want me not to get interrupted today. So again, a lot of thought and planning has gone into this. And notice I start off to build it on just a small sampling of products. Right, so here's a lookup, right? Here's a link rather to the product in QBO. So here's where I make the association so that I have a permanent way of looking up when something sells on a sales channel, what its equivalent product is as it appears in QuickBooks Online. And again, I bring in the product name link test in here again, just as a double check. Right, and then over here I have a lot of the stuff we want to describe about a product, the sales description, manufacturer's part number, the supplier. As an example, I just went onto the Under Armour gear website and I pulled a bunch of their products to just use as a sample. What does it cost me? What's my unit price? This is cool, a URL that takes me right to that product, right? So if these were really products I was selling in my own store, this link would take me to my own store. As in this case, it's going to take us to the product right on the Under Armour gear website, right? So I love building stuff like this that lets me keep track of things. And because it's cloud-based and, and because it's, because it's cloud-based, it's really easy to just link things. That makes it easy for me to get around and say, okay, so here's where the product is. I mean, imagine a real use case, how nice this would be, where I have my master product list, and I can use this then to go online and say, okay, this is the product that we're actually looking at on the front end of the website. And now if I want to make any changes, if I want to change the price, boom, I've got everything I need right here. I go in and I update the price here, and I have all of my login information in the sales channels list, so I can go to that store, log in, and update whatever I need to update. So again, this becomes command central for how to manage all of this stuff. So I have this same product, for example, where let me sort this. We haven't sorted anything yet. So just so you can see how this was sort of initially built, I'm going to sort this by the sales channel SKU. So we're going to add a sort. Sort by SKU sales channel. Right? From A to Z is fine. I'll click apply. Because now you can start to see where this is the same product, but I have it once on Amazon, once on eBay, and once on Walmart, right? And the SKUs are the same here, and in this case, they're the same in QBO as well, which oftentimes will be the case. But sometimes you run into a sales channel where they have some weird rule about how the SKU number needs to be organized, and so it might be something different, right? Like here, look, I have this product. The SKU number has AZ in front of it, and that might be mine or my client's way of knowing that this is a product that's sold on Amazon, right? AZ for Amazon. Okay, I'm trying to see where I did an example of something where the SKUs were different. I may not have for now, for the sake of simplicity while I was building this. I may have kept it all the same. But again, the idea here is I've created the ability to do a lookup where the SKU on the sales channel may actually be different than the SKU in QBO. And in the real world, trust me, that happens all the time. It's kind of underscores the mess I walked into a year ago with a new client where I had to get this all organized and create a central list. That's where this all really came from, right? So now once I've started to build this, I've just shown you how you can sort it from the grid view, but I've also got it a product grouping, so it groups it by product for me. So now in a click, I can see here's the product, right? I sell it on each of the 4 sales channels, right? The sales channel SKU actually is different for each one because I have something in the SKU that lets me know where it's being sold, right? Or at least in the cases of Amazon and Walmart, I do. But in Groupon and eBay's cases, I have just a standard SKU, right? But notice for QBO, it's the exact same SKU across the board. It has to be, right? There can only be one SKU for the same product in QBO. Otherwise, I have a problem in terms of tracking the inventory for that item, right? So this made it really easy creating a list like this. And so again, this can be done in Smartsheet too, but what you can't do in Smartsheet is these quick groupings like this. Because now the other grouping I have also is by sales channel. So again, in one click, I can see it reorganized and I can see by sales channel. It seems I have a filter on this one. I filtered it to see just what was in Amazon, so let me remove that filter. And now, boom, I can see Amazon, eBay. You know, this is the stuff I sell on Groupon and Walmart. So again, I can quickly pivot around on the data to see what's being sold where. Another cool trick I discovered. If you right-click on this little arrow, which you can see clearly refers to the Amazon grouping here, if I right-click on this, collapse all. So boom, I can quickly collapse it. So if I want to, I can focus just on Groupon, right? Or just on eBay, right? And of course, I can right-click again and choose Expand All to expand everything. So that's huge. This kind of functionality just really helps me analyze, especially when there's a lot of data, helps me analyze it very quickly. And that's the name of the game for me, is it's not just about managing this information, it's about managing it in the most efficient way possible, right? And so that's what this has really started to allow me to do. And again, when I want to go back to just adding products, I go back to my product grid. I can sort this any number of ways. And by the way, I thought that the sorting was limited. I'm trying to think if this is a good example of where to show you what I'm talking about. I don't think it is. I need something that's got dates in it to show you where I thought the sorting was limited in terms of, like, Smartsheet has really smart standards when you're trying to sort by a date, where you can say anything that's in the future or anything that's in the past. And I thought that that functionality didn't exist in Airtable. It did. It's a subtle little thing. So let me see if I can show you something that's sort of date-based. I think I can. Let me go into here real quick. This is kind of my command central. So yeah, so here's this Thursday $47 webinar series, right? And so this is where, again, perfect example of how I'm drinking my own Kool-Aid here. I'm keeping track of all the stuff that I'm doing, right? We did project management. It's not what you use, it's how you use it. I've got a whole bunch of URL-based columns, so I can track the links. Here was the registration URL before it was done. Here's the Vimeo link to that webinar, right? And I created a space. I thought, actually here, that's all there's going to be. There's not going to be a YouTube link. On my Zoom in with Seth calls, I have more because I have the website URL where that post eventually goes. I have the Vimeo URL and the YouTube URL, the Facebook Live URL because I record them to Facebook Live. This helps me because invariably, and now you can see where I've got their logos here, invariably somebody's going to come to me probably later this week and say, hey, where do I go to find that Entrepreneurs on Fire Zoom that you did? And now in here, I can quickly find it and get them. And I can pretty much just say, which link do you want? Do you want to, I'll probably link them to the website because I normally want to drive traffic to the website. But the point being, I have everything I need about this episode that I did right here. I don't have to go searching on my own website or anywhere else for it. It's all right here. So getting back to the date filters, right? Let's say I'm looking at this and I only want to look at upcoming Zooms. If I want to do a filter by date, so let's do broadcast date, right? The options seem limited here. I was looking at this, I can do today, tomorrow, yesterday, 1 week ago, 1 week from now. What I really want here is anything in the future, and that choice doesn't exist. And I looked at this many times because like, there's no way this app has been so like sort of thoughtful and slick in terms of what they thought of. I noticed where it says is, this is another drop down. What?
Does that say was? Will be? How about
Hold
it's
on.
on or after today?
Don't get ahead of me.
Okay.
So yeah, when I change is, in other words, if I leave it as is, right, it's going to be like an exact date based on these sort of proximities, right? I can do a number of days ago, but when I click this drop down, now I can say is on or after, right? Or I can say even is after, and I don't want to do an exact date. I can just say after today, right? So again, the subtle thing that I was trying to point out that I didn't notice right away was that within the date filter, that is drop down that it gives you is what I was missing. That once I discovered that, I learned how to do this. So that's an important little thing to note about, you know, using sort of date-based filters. Okay, so there's your e-commerce use case, which nobody's really seen this yet. You guys are actually the first to see this because, like I said, I'm building this as part of a course that I'm doing on accounting for e-commerce. Another thing I do with each of these, the first tab, I usually create this tab called Design Notes. Because a lot of times I'll have fleeting thoughts and ideas while I'm working on something or maybe an hour after. Doesn't that happen all the time? Like I'll be working on something and I'll be like, you know, racking my brain trying to figure out how to accomplish something. And I can't figure it out. And then, of course, 5 minutes after I walk away from it, while I'm trying to think about it, the idea hits me. And I'm like, oh, that's how you do it? So I have this design notes grid where I can just kind of log information that I want to make sure I keep track of, specifically, of course, around this particular project, right? And by the way, the mobile app on Airtable is really good. So make sure you install the mobile app. You can't do everything that you can do from here with it, but you can definitely access all the information. And it's pretty slick. And the company just got $52 million in funding recently. So I'm sure they're going to be putting a lot more money into the mobile app and further developing and making this even better and better. They've added this, in fact, the same day they announced the funding, they added this new feature called blocks. This really lets you take this to the next level in terms of taking what was initially a relational database building tool, and you can really almost develop your own app without having to know a single line of code, right? So when you go into this, you can add, there are different kinds of blocks, and again, I'm sure they're going to add more and more to this. They actually have something called a pivot table, which I'm sure takes the grouping concept much further, right? But you can even add, I've played around with this a little bit, but I haven't had time to play around with it too much yet, a page designer, where you can take the data that's in a table and lay it out almost as if on a web page, any way that you want to present it, right? And so I'm playing around with this. Like I see a lot of potential with this kind of stuff. So there's a lot of nice little integrations, basically, that you get here with these blocks. So if you're playing around with Airtable, make sure you play around with that. And the site has pretty good documentation on all their stuff, too. Okay, and now I want to move on to the real estate.
Does that come with the base version, Or what, does that come with every version?
Yeah, I mean, the bases are just always there. So yeah, you mean like whether you're doing the free version versus a paid version?
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's there for everybody, but some of the blocks that you'll maybe want to use will require like an outside app that you have to pay for. Like I noticed there's one that's got like it seemed like it was a Google Maps kind of block, but in order to use that one, it required a paid service with Google. I stopped there. I'm like, okay, it's cool, but it's not that important. You know, I'm not going to pay for it yet. But I was actually going into what I was going to look at next, which is the real estate use case. I probably will pay for it in that case, because how cool will it be to have a block added to my database that will show me a Google Maps view of each property that I'm managing, right? Just a really cool thing to have.
Really knocks FileMaker Pro out of the park.
Oh yeah,
Big
time.
I used to do a lot in FileMaker Pro.
Yeah, but you had to learn how to write functions and things, and it wasn't simple. Here, it's just drop dead easy to link things together, and it's crazy. So, all right, where's my real estate one? Here we go. OPP management. This is something that Eric and I are actually working on to build a real live use case for a property management app, which when it's done, we're going to take to a developer and have them develop something integrated with QuickBooks Online. Don't steal my idea. Because there's no good property management apps that integrate with QuickBooks Online. The good ones like Buildium and AppFolio all have their own internal accounting module, and all of those accounting modules suck. So Eric and I are actually going to work on trying to build something using this as the foundation or platform to manage properties. So again, same idea here. The first tab is actually our design and integration notes. Okay, here the tenant application process. We haven't really quite built this out yet, but now you can start to see the form, right? So this is initially laid out in a grid, right? So it has all the information we want to get, their name, right? Their phone number, their email, the date, right? Current address, how long have you lived there? So we just go through and take each question essentially and put it in the, put it in a separate column. And then once you do that, all you really have to do is click here. And instead of going to the one we've called tenant application, pretend that wasn't there for a minute, I'll just click form. And it basically will build a form based on all the columns. It initially assumes that I want every column in the form, right? And so if you've laid out your columns and planned it well, your form can be built in an instant. Then you want to go through it. There may be some things you don't want to include. You might want to change the order, and you can do all that. You click on any one field. I can decide if it's required or not.
Can you do checkboxes or pull downs or?
Yeah, because there's a column type for checkboxes. So if you have a checkbox column type, that's going to come in here. And if you have like a single or multiple select drop down, that's also going to render here. Right, so yeah,
So
it's basically, if you can
Does
conceive
it cost
it.
to share this, Seth?
What's that?
Like if you were going to send this to someone, does it cost for them to fill it out?
No, of course not. No, you're gonna, right here, you see where it says share form?
Yeah.
So I click on this, and I have two ways to do it. I can just send somebody a link, or I can embed this on my website. So I click the embed option, and it's going to open up a new tab, and here's the embed code, which if you're using WordPress or something, is really easy to just drop in to the back end of a page on your website, and the form will render beautifully.
So then if somebody fills out the form, it's on your spreadsheet or on your Airtable?
Yeah, as soon as they
information?
fill out this form, the results will show up in a row right here in the grid.
That's amazing.
Yeah, just like Google Forms or Smartsheet forms.
Okay, so for people to fill out forms, they're not actually a user, so they don't.
No.
There's no cost for that.
Right, no, of course. They're basically, think of them as a view-only user. They can only view it and they can fill out the form, but they don't have access to the data, right?
Oh, okay, all right, yeah.
Right, so in fact, since I promised it, let me jump back over to my headquarters, and I'll show you exactly what I did on mine. So I have one, and by the way, when you have a lot of tables in your base like this, this little hamburger menu up here gets you a quick drop down to all of the tables, right? And you can use the search to quickly find something, right? So if I go new client, I thought it was called new clients. Oh, I just renamed it, and of course I've got a typo in there. New client contact info. So let's fix that. And so now you're seeing who my recent new clients are, but that's okay. I don't expect anybody's going to steal my clients here. So I built this form based on these tables, and just to make it easy to see what the columns are, I am going to, what's a quick way to do that? Well, let's just build a new form. So again, the columns that I included are the company name, right? The contact name, the client naming. This is my naming convention for clients, which is a concatenate formula that takes the company name and a dash and the client name and puts it into one. This is how this client gets named on every service that he uses, their Google Drive folder, their active collab project. Every time I have to name a service for that client so I know where that client is, it follows this exact convention. That's one of my internal processes that I'm absolute about. If somebody ever comes in and tries to deviate from that, I will hang them. I'm kidding. I would just tell them how to do it the right way. Okay, I asked for their website, and then I learned that a lot of companies have 2 websites, especially since I'm doing e-commerce clients a lot. So I give them 2 websites to give me if they want to. Their email, their cell phone, their business, street address, city, state, zip. What's cool is as this builds over time, I can quickly do a grouping by state just to see where my clients are. It'll be fun and interesting to look at. I do collect their tax ID in here, their date of incorporation, the date their last tax return was filed. That information just comes in handy all the time. Field 18, I think, is the yeah. It's a standard field that says that tells me when they actually filled out the form. So record created. So this, of course, is not in the form. This is just I want to know exactly when the client filled out the form, and they can upload attachments. And then this is a linked field to the onboarding because that's another table I use that helps me document the onboarding process. So how to build the form. Now that I've got all the columns in that I need, just click here, and I'm going to create a new one. I'll do form. And of course, I can add a cover image and a logo. For that, you do need to have a paid account. If you try to add a logo or a cover image on a free workspace, they're going to stop you right there. So you do, for those kinds of, because remember, you're uploading stuff to their website, which means they now have infrastructure they need to pay for to make sure, A, you're not uploading a virus, and B, you're not uploading inappropriate content. So now that it's costing them money, it's going to cost you money, right? So that is one, but maybe you don't care. Maybe you don't need it to be that pretty. You know, maybe you just need a simple form, right? Especially for something like this, where you can embed it in a page of your own, where you can put a pretty image in there, right? So now there's things I don't want in here, like let's go down. I don't want that creation date in here, but by default, it's going to stick every single column, I think. Maybe it's smart enough not to put a system thing in there like that. So here, this I don't want in here. This is the link. This is based on that column I have linked to my onboarding table. Notice, by the way, if I did leave it in here, they could actually click on this right on the form, and they could link their record to any existing record that's in here. I'm not even sure what we're going to see here because I don't remember. But let's let it do its thing. But obviously in a second, I'm going to show you how to remove this because it's not something I would want in there. So what you do now is you click on this, and I think if you click this guy, you can delete the field. That's not going to delete the field from the table, I don't think. I think it's just going to remove it. But if you're not sure, because I'm actually not sure now that I think about it, is I can click and drag it over. Yeah, I think if you've got the fields hidden in the original table, that will work. But did you see what I just did there? I actually just dragged it over here to the left, because on the left here is your list of available fields. So if I move it to the available fields, it means it's not being used anymore, right? You can also customize the language, so it's not the same old boring submit. I like to put something like let's go. All right, now we have attachments. What I did on mine here is I went in and I added some help text. And I said upload files with notes or anything with any additional information you might think we would need to know, right? It's just a way they can upload like a Word doc with more information. I frequently get clients who want to do stuff like that. So I'm like, fine, why not? As far as I'm concerned, the more information they give me, the more opportunities I have to sell them more services that I offer, right? Based on them telling me where they think they have needs. So, you know, and you can obviously retitle any of this stuff. And again, you can choose whether or not this is required. Obviously, this is not something I would be inclined to require. This, by the way, is a question I ask that it's called a hot button. If you had an extra $1 million discretionary, what would you do with the money? So if I get an idea later on for something for a service I want to offer them that I think is going to help them make more money, and let's say their answer to this was, oh, I'd buy a yacht, I can call them up or email them and say, you know, hey, Mr. Jones, I have something I want to run by you. Can we schedule a 30-minute call? I think I know a way for you to get that yacht you always wanted, right? It's a little sales gimmick, basically. But it's also fun to read people's answers to these kind of questions. Right? I love asking them for their short and long-term goals because it gives me an idea of, again, what I want to. This is how I create benchmarks for how I've succeeded at accomplishing what they hired me to do, right? I can look back at this in a month or look back at it every month and see, am I on track with helping them meet what their goals were? I really like doing this kind of stuff on a form like this, so I have it to look back to later on. Not going to require this, even though I'd like to, because they may not have it handy and I don't want to hold them up from being able to fill out the form. I can always get the information later if I want it. Right, same thing with date of incorporation. I'd like to have it. I'm not going to require it because they're not going to be able to fill out the form. Sometimes they get to that and they're like, oh, I have to go find the tax return from last year, and they don't know where that is, right? Same with tax ID, or they may just not be comfortable giving that to me this way. I've had clients tell me that, like, I don't want to give it to you over the web, and they'll like text it to me or something. So I'm like, okay, fine. Here I created a drop down for the entity type, and I got real specific. Is it a corp? Is it an LLC filing as a partnership? Is it an LLC filing as an S corp, right? Or just a partnership, or just an S corp, or a sole proprietor, right? Again, I just find it very handy to have this kind of information about my clients. And then I'm kind of working backwards here. We're getting back into the basic contact information. You know, so certain things I would absolutely require. Obviously, not the company name because maybe they're an individual and they don't really have a company. But I definitely need the contact name. So we're going to make that required. Notice when I check that off, it puts the little red star there. So it lets them know, you know, that's pretty standard on a form where they mark which fields are required. Right? Not going to require the websites. Definitely going to require the email. So as you can see, sorry?
Would you share this list so we don't have to reinvent this?
I have to see if there's a way. There might be a way for me to, I wonder, that's a good point. Well, you know what I can do? I'm glad you mentioned that, Alexa, because that's a great question,
There's a pink button that says share form there.
But that's just for you to go fill it out. So, no, but here's what I know I can do. I just have to basically copy this whole base and gut it out from any of the private information. But Airtable has this thing called Airtable Universe. And so I can add it here, and then you can go, and then it's public. You can go and make a copy of the whole base. And actually, I just thought of another way. But I'll show you this because I actually have something in here already. My whole app ecosystem base that I created, I've added here. So this is what they do. And they give you a nice view. I, of course, uploaded the picture to make it look pretty, but this is a way of sharing the stuff that you don't mind sharing for free. And then I can actually choose whether or not this option to copy it is there. So I'll do that with I'll take my whole Nerd HQ base and copy it, get all the data out of it, and then I'll either put it up here, or when you create that share link, Greg, I think that there is, if I remember correctly, there is an option whether or not I allow you to copy it. So I'll still have to obviously gut it out from the proprietary information that's in here, but let me take a look at my share options. If I go to share this whole base by creating a share.
There was a duplicate base. Oh, but that would duplicate.
That's still only going to be for me. No, this is what we want to do. See where it says allow viewers to copy the data in this base? So I can create a blank version and then give you this, and then you'll be able to, like, if I click on this link now, this will give us a rendering of what it looks like when you're accessing it. Notice up here it says copy base. So that's how I can share this with you guys specifically. You know, where I can just, like I said, I'll just make a copy of it, gut it all out. Give me a day or two on that. It's going to take me a minute to do because I've got a lot of stuff going on in here. But this way you can, you know, use my client form and embed it in your own website. And again, the results will come in right to here. And I'm also starting to do a lot of stuff with Zapier on this. And I want to show you, since we're talking about the contact form, first of all, let me delete this form. And then I'm going to go to my actual form. Okay, so I haven't bothered with the cover image, but I did put my logo on it. And here's what happens. So this is, again, for new clients. But once they fill it out, this is my list of my clients' contact info, right? So there's a few things I do with Zapier on this. And this is just so cool. Because again, Airtable is a cloud app, and it's built for the cloud by cloud advocates, so they make it really easy for developers to access their API and do whatever they want. So of course, Airtable is included as an app in Zapier. Bandwidth is running really slow, probably because of this. Okay, this should be showing me my apps. It almost looks like they've changed the interface around a little bit.
Your apps or your zaps?
My zaps, that's what I meant. So here we are, zaps.
Yeah, it's gonna say go to home.
Yeah. All right, so I have it in my Nerd Admin apps or zaps folder. So new business management client. I'm gonna edit this so you can see what it does. The minute somebody fills out that form in Airtable, Zapier is going to do a few things for me because it can access all the information that they filled out. So the trigger is a new record in Airtable, and of course it's linked specifically to that tab, to that form, right? So anytime there's a new record in that table, it actually creates a task in Active Collab for me, which essentially just reminds me to set up their project. I can set up a new project by default from Zapier, but there are limitations on your options with respect to, in other words, I can't set up a project from a template using Zapier. So instead I have it create a task in my main, like Nerd Enterprise Essential project that reminds me that you've got a new client, go set up a project for them, right? It creates the customer in my QuickBooks Online company. It has all the information it needs. So it just creates a customer and sticks everything in there for me, automatic. QuickBooks Online is a premium app for Zapier, so you have to have the paid version of Zapier in order to be able to do this. It also creates a contact in Nimble, and it tags them as a client. So I have a client contacts in Nimble in case they're not already there, but they're tagged now so that I can quickly filter my contacts in Nimble for all my clients, right? I also have a special client list in MailChimp because there are emails I like to send out to clients only. And so it adds them to that specific list in MailChimp. Again, I just captured all the information I need in order to do that very easily. So this, anytime somebody fills out that form, boom, within 5 minutes, all this gets set up for me automatically. It's amazing.
So Seth, in addition to that, I added set up a folder in my box. And also set up a Slack channel between Erica and myself.
Right. See, I set up a dedicated Slack workspace for each of these clients. So again, that's this task is actually going to tell me, it's going to remind me to set up Slack, and I do Google Drive. So it's going to remind me to set up Google Drive. That's a good point. I could have it set up the folder for me, but for whatever reason, I just didn't think to do that. But yeah. That's, again, any of these services, especially where you, as a standard, are always going to set these things up for your new clients. Zapier will do it for you. So that's great stuff, Christine.
And it could send you an email saying, we just had all these things happen.
Right. Yeah, the only reason I don't is because Active Collab is going to notify me. In fact, I have Active Collab has its own integration with Slack. So I have a channel in my sort of Nerd Enterprises Inc. Slack workspace for Active Collab, and that channel is going to light up and tell me, hey, you have a new task, and I go in there. So I get notified that way. But yeah, there are other applications that where I've used this where I do have emails automatically going out, including information that they filled out from the form. When I have a new guest signing up to be on my weekly Friday Zoom call, in fact, I have a process just like that. You know, where it's going to send an email out with all the information based on what they submitted. That will actually create the webinar in Zoom for me and name it according to what they submitted as their company name and as their individual name. It combines the two and names the webinar according to that in Zoom. And then, so again, cloud, if you're doing all cloud apps like I do, this stuff gets really easy and it gets really cool. It's actually a lot of fun to see this kind of stuff come together, not to mention the time it saves. Because now I don't have to stop and think about all this. It just gets done for me. So I think it was Penny who had asked me ahead of time in signing up. I promised her the whole reason she signed up was just to learn how to do this form. So I wanted to make sure I delivered on that promise because I promised her. She would have been really disappointed in me if I didn't show you how to do this form because I specifically told her. She signed up just for that. So, and notice on my real form, I did pull out that onboarding field because I don't need it in the form. Right? My only sort of complaint about this is you don't have any choices about the layout here. Like I would love to be able to do like a 2-column layout so I don't have this just long form. Or like Google Forms, you can actually cut off where it goes to the next page. And so Google Forms is a little more sophisticated. But like I said, these guys just got 52 million, so I'm sure we're going to see this stuff get better and better and better as time goes on. All right, so I want to jump back and go ahead.
Do they have a submit feedback?
I'm sure they do, because they're very good about that kind of stuff. In fact, I wonder, is it down here? No, this is just like quick menus to do different things. But if these guys are like really at the cutting edge in terms of being a startup app developer. So I'm sure they have all kinds of stuff, you know, where they listen. They have that whole Airtable universe. So yeah, there's definitely a place where you can submit feedback, I'm sure. I just don't remember exactly where it is. So going back to property management, so the application, again, it's just you're going to build a grid out so that you can build an application form so that now tenants are going to come and they're going to fill out this application when they're, you know, when you want to take applications from tenants to move in. Then we have a table just for the properties, right? So it's basically just property name, property street address, city, state, zip, notes and attachments, right? And then over here we have the primary tenant. I don't know why this is doing that. Again, this is in development, so there may be some quirks going on with it. The units are getting linked back here. So what happens is when I go into another table and I create a link to this table, what Airtable does is in this table, it creates a link back to that table. So that's why you might see some columns appear here that you didn't put here. It's because in my units table, I linked it. So I keep the units in a separate table from the properties, right? And it's just handy to have it set up that way so that I don't have to clutter up my properties list because here, and this is an example of what I said at the very beginning, in order to include the units here in the master property list, I would have to repeat each property name and address for each unit so I can show the units. And I don't want to do that. I want to keep this list nice and simple and clean. So over here I have a table that's just for the units where, of course, then I have unit number 1 associated back to the property, right? And then here, units and tenants, this is going over to my tenants list. So again, my tenants are in a separate list. If I go to my grid view, I just list out anytime there's a new tenant, I bring them in and I assign them to the unit. And then what I'm able to do is when they move out, I'm going to put in their move out date, which is supposed to be here. We may not have added it yet. I remember making a note to do it. And so then I can keep the history of who was in the unit and their move in and move out dates. So I just create a new record for the same unit again. when a new tenant comes in their place, right? So just like when we're managing properties in QuickBooks Online, I don't take the existing sub-customer and update the information for the new tenant. I make that one inactive, and I create a new sub-customer for that unit, so I have a permanent record of who was in there and when. And especially if there's maintenance tied into that unit, which is yet another table, we have a repairs and maintenance tab. So anytime there's maintenance needed, first of all, I can build a form off this table, which I can provide to my tenants online so they can fill out a maintenance request, right? And then also we have the company names and the provider type. Are they a handyman or a gardener? So I can have them choose on that form from a dropdown saying, what do you need, right? We had to put in the pool guy. Everybody's got to have a pool guy. So again, I'm building these tables out and paying a lot of careful attention to which things need to be on their own tables. I didn't initially do the units on its own table, but at a certain point it occurred to me that it'd be really useful to do. And so initially it's in the grid view when I'm building, but now over here, or not on this one, sorry, the tenant view, same idea, but now here's where I can do some interesting things. Like here, I can show vacancies or vacancies by property. And this is just another copy of the view like you saw earlier, but where it's grouped by property and it's filtered for things that are vacant, right, that don't have a tenant in them. And in other words, what we do back in the units list is when there's a property that is in fact vacant, we actually put the word vacant in there, right? So over here, vacant. And this is actually linked to, it's linked to tenants. So actually that's done directly in here. Right, and so doing that allows me to quickly see where do I have vacancies, where do I have properties that need to get filled. You know, so now I know, or my client who owns the property or manages the property knows where they need to place ads to get these vacancies filled. Right, so again, using a grouping combined with a filter makes it really easy and slick to get this. Also notice I've got, go ahead.
Can you require the tenant field? So, you know, if somebody forgets to put the term vacant in there, it's not going to show up on this summary report. But if we require something in that field, we would then be able to effectively report on that. Is that accurate?
You can do a default value, right? So if I go back to the grid view, for example, right, and these are the ones that say vacant here. Notice also I've got a little red marker next to any ones that say vacant. Everybody see that?
Is that just a conditional formatting thing?
Kind of. If you click on the color option here within the view menu, you can add in conditions. And just so it says where the tenant name contains the word vacant, make it red. So going back to your question, Greg, what I would do, because no, there's no way to specifically require that, you know, it have something in it. No, you know what? I thought you could only do, what I was thinking you could do is you could put like default text in there. So no, I suppose what you'd have to do is go in here. Easiest way to do it is in the grid view, right? And then you can quickly filter for where the tenant name is blank, where the tenant name is empty. Is not is empty. So you do that and you can quickly see if there's anything that's blank because somebody forgot to put vacant in there. Otherwise, it means there's a name in there. Presumably, that means it's okay. If I get rid of that filter, the other thing, of course, to do, because it could be that they put like the letter V in there and forgot to type the whole thing out. So the other thing to do to just check on something like that is do a quick sort by tenant name. Get that out of there. Apply. And that should bring anything that's blank or weird, for that matter, down to the bottom. And then if you really want to take it a step further, now that I've got it sorted, actually it wouldn't even matter if I had it sorted, but I can quickly group this by tenant name, right? And then let's just collapse all. And so that helps me scan the list real quick to see if there's anything, weird or wrong. Right, so these are some ways to troubleshoot the issue you're talking about. There's no way to say, hey, this is required. It absolutely has to have something in there, if not the word vacant. So let's expand everything and kill off the groups. Another thing that I learned just from having worked with a lot of people who manage properties is, a lot of times in a unit, you'll have the tenant, which is what this table is all about, but there may be 3 or 4 other people living there with them, right? So again, I created another table called additional tenants so that we have a linked record to the property. And over here we can start, and the primary tenant then gets looked up. And here in the primary column in this table, we have the additional tenants here. And what I'd probably be inclined to do, we have this set up right now as a single line text. I'd probably be inclined to say, let's make this long text actually. Because with long text, you actually get like a little notepad, which I can expand and expand again. And so I can just list the names, right? Although actually, I think the thinking here may have been that we would actually have a separate line for each additional tenant, because it actually, yeah, that's the idea. And I'll tell you why. Let's go back to single line, because this way we have their contact information. So if for some reason we can't reach the primary tenant, we have all the information for the additional tenants. And that may not be captured on the initial tenant application, but it's information we might capture afterwards, right, once they've moved in, especially if we're aware that they have the additional tenants. So I found this to be useful in QuickBooks. When I would manage this kind of stuff, I would have to find like either the notes field or some weird place to stick this kind of information. But I found it was very useful and really even important to have when there's additional tenants to know that. Erica did this one on her own. We started building out like a rent roll, which is kind of cool, where we just have a column for each month so we can list what the rent should have been for each unit. So notice it's grouped first by year, then by property, right? That way we can have each year a different rent roll so we can kind of preserve that history. So I thought that was really cool, really clever what she did here and the way she laid that out. And then again, we have the repairs and maintenance. This is really the list. And so after repairs and maintenance, now we have work orders. This is where, this isn't built yet, but this is where we'll probably create the columns and then build a form off of this so that tenants can fill out a maintenance request, right? And then here are the actual maintenance records where there'd be the description of the work. We'd come in here. Obviously, this is linked, which vendor did the work, right? So if we had Victor the handyman, and by the way, these are actually real names because this is based on a real property that we know about. We actually got the guy's permission to use his data so that we can build this, right? So we have that. Then we say which property was it for. Okay, and then over here we say which unit it was for. Right, and again, all these sort of drop downs or lists like this are searchable. So if I know it was for Crotona 6200, then I go in here and let's test this. If I type 6200, will it bring me up just all of those units? No, that's too bad. They should fix that. Because notice this has a list of every unit for every property. So at this point, you'll kind of have to know what unit number it was. Because if I go unit number 3, if that's how the units are organized as opposed to unit A and so on, it would be nice if I could search by 6200. So again, that's another one of these Airtable things that I imagine they'll fix at some point, right? Because they'll get the feedback. Right, notes and attachments. And over here, again, we found because of property management that we have, in a lot of cases, different entities that have a different mix of ownership for different properties. So if I'm a property management company, I might have 3 properties that are owned by these 2 people, and then 2 other properties that are owned by one of those people, and then one other person that's not an owner in the initial 3 properties. So I've I've always found it cumbersome to try and track that in QuickBooks Online. So here it's easy because we just build out a table indicating, first of all, what's the name of the LLC or entity? It's usually LLCs that owns the property. And then which properties do they own? Here's where I have a linked record where you can link to multiple records. So I can say this LLC owns these properties, right? And then we have a separate table for the actual contacts, the individuals, right? So here I say, here's Joe Schmo. He's the, he's the principal in OPP LLC, and so on. And so again, just really, it's might seem like excruciating detail, but when you lay it out this way, it makes it really easy to track and report on all this kind of information, right? So that's so far what we've got laid out for a property management concern using Airtable. So we've looked at a use case for a bookkeeping company. We've looked at a use case for e-commerce. We've looked at a use case for property management. We have a few minutes left. Let's say I shut up for a few minutes and see if any of you have any more questions, thoughts, ideas, concerns, something else you want to see.
Do you have a comparison of Airtable to Smartsheet?
No, not yet. I mean, this Airtable is still fairly new to me. But like I was saying earlier in my e-commerce course, I do a comparison almost side by side. It's really two separate lessons, but it's the same lesson. Here's how to do it in Smartsheet. Here's how to do it in Airtable. But if you're asked, so that's specifically for the e-commerce and more specifically for the master SKU list use case. I showed you the Airtable side of that here. But if you're looking to get an idea of when would I use one versus the other in a more general way, my first answer is, like I said earlier, when it comes to inviting collaborators in, if you need a lot of collaborators, you're going to want to use Smartsheet because Airtable is going to get expensive quickly if you need a lot of people in there who have edit rights. If they can all just be view only, that's another story. The other difference is, because like I was saying earlier, when I go into, for example, the master product list here, and I have these different views that I've created, like the product grouping, and then the by sales channel grouping. You can't do this in Smartsheet, but you can do something different. In Smartsheet, you can use the filters, and you can save filters, so it's very much like having these different views saved. The only difference is you won't have the groupings where you have the sort of substructure, right? You'll just have a filter, and you can toggle filters in Smartsheet. So you can accomplish almost the same thing. It's just going to look a little different. So where would I break off from Smartsheet and say, no, I absolutely have to use Airtable for this? The one definitive answer on that I have so far is where I really do have a lot of relational tables that need to be built and linked, right? Smartsheet can even have links from one table to another, but it's not nearly as slick as this, and it's not nearly as easy. And because of the way it's Airtable, or Smartsheet rather, is sort of structured, it's very easy for those links to sort of break if somebody goes in and changes the wrong thing. Here, it's not nearly as likely that you're going to break something, so to speak. So if you have, again, a situation where you need a lot of relational tables, and it can't be accomplished in one big linear table, that's where I think you're going to find Airtable is the better tool to use. So far, that's the best answer I can give you on how to decide what to use and when. And then the other bigger picture answer, the broader answer, is get into both and learn everything they can do, and then you'll be able to figure it out case by case very easily, because that's what I've started to do.
I start looking at it by how many zaps between the two.
Yeah. I have the more premium Zap plan, so I'm not as limited there. And I can rerun Zaps with my plan on Zapier if I need to. If you get the lowest plan, you can't rerun a Zap. If it fails, that's it.
No, I got the highest plan because it's just too valuable to not have it full depth.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, so, yes.
Where's your link? I haven't signed up for Airtable yet, and I was looking on your website partners to click it so you would get the credit for it, but
oh, it's in there. Oh, you're looking on my web page. I haven't added Airtable to that yet. Here, but I'll tell you where I've got it for sure. Here, I'm going to give it to you. I actually meant to give it to you all up front. So remember this: use Airtable to track your app ecosystem.
Yeah.
I'll just go into apps by genre and status here for a minute. Actually, I don't even want status. Let's just go by genre. So by the way, Airtable, really cool thing. I did a video recently on using your browser's find feature in QuickBooks Online to find something, say, in the chart of accounts really quick. Same idea here. Control F, Airtable. Finds it for me real quick. And part of what I'm doing with this base is tracking my affiliate links for these things. So I have to add them in as a partner. So I'm going to copy this link into the Zoom chat here.
So I started adding that in my also, because you have yours. I don't have this set up like this yet, but I also added the my contacts person, because I don't know about you, but they often change.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, who's my person?
Yep.
So
No,
I
that's
have my
great.
links in there and my person.
Yep. No, that's great.
Did Active Collab start letting you have a referral link?
No, they don't. They just don't have an affiliate program. So
Oh, okay.
it's fine. I'm still going to refer them anyway. I still love the product. That's all that matters.
Right. I mean, they were on your website, so I thought, well, maybe they started doing it. But
No, it's just because, and that goes back to my claim, which is actually true, that I don't just put them up there because I get paid. I put them up there because I love the app. That's the first criteria. If they happen to have an affiliate program where they'll pay me for the referrals, great. I'll sign up for it and use that link. But I'm not going to not put something up there that I truly love just because I don't get paid for it. That's, to me, that's the other way. That's a lack of integrity, right?
right, but just because they were on your partner page, I thought that perhaps that's what it meant. But
No, partner page really, I mean, I guess it sort of implies that, but the reality is that page is any app that I really love and recommend, you know. So a lot of them are. G Suite, I was surprised, has an affiliate program. So that one's an affiliate link. Nobody's used it yet, though. But everybody probably already has it. All right, so what else? I would love to hear from you all about what you're going to do with Airtable now that you know how to use it. I know what Laura's doing.
I also have my gardening in there. That's like slowly.
That was hilarious. That was hilarious, but awesome because it was a really good sort of personal use case for it.
What, the garden?
The gardening thing, yeah. That's brilliant.
Yeah. I'm not really far on it. If I share the screen with you, everybody would be like, yeah, she's not Seth.
No, it was great because it's like you can rotate your crops or whatever into the different areas each year.
I'm trying. And I took a screenshot of the growing calendar for some plants and for one plant anyway. That's as far as I got.
That's hilarious.
But I didn't put linkage or anything yet.
Right.
I haven't figured out like a good way to set it up. Your brain is much more organized than most people's.
My brain is a scary, scary place, Laura.
I know.
All right. So, any questions? Everybody good? Everybody happy?
Will you let us know when you share that base?
Yes. Let me make a note. Let me go into Active Collab and add a task reminding myself to share.
And also, if you start your Airtable and you forget to give Seth the credit, you can email them.
Yes, Michelle did that. That was very nice.
They'll retroactively credit him.
I'll have to do that, Seth. You should share out that your contact or affiliate person. I'll let them know that I signed up under you.
I don't have one. Michelle just emailed their support, I think, didn't you?
Yeah.
And gave them my email.
And they emailed me, and then I emailed them with your email, or included
my
you,
email
whatever.
address, which of course is Seth@nerdenterprises.com. So if you just email support and tell them that you want me to get credit for having referred you, that's how to do it. Because I don't actually have a contact there.
I will do that.
You are the best.
I just signed up, so you should get my credit.
Yay! That's awesome. Thank you. This is hilarious, by the way. I have McAfee for virus protection just because that's what came with my computer. And they do the scan. That's what was slowing my computer down at one point. And it tells me there's a threat detected. And you know what the threat is? that I haven't paid for one of their other services to get that protect. It's a joke. It's
terrible.
Companies are terrible. So anyway.
Just real quick, it's Zach at Airtable. ZACH at airtable.com.
Oh, great. Thank you. All right. So I will get this posted online. And like I said, next week I will be doing mastering reports in QuickBooks Online. I'm going to look at how to kind of customize reports to tweak them and get really cool information out of QuickBooks Online. So I'll post that up soon. As always, 97 and up members get these for free. Non-members pay $47. Or you can just join 97 and up and then get them for free. And just go to at least 2 webinars every month, and now you've paid for your 97 and up membership effectively.
Or even just show up at the meetings. Really.
That's true. The twice weekly
You
calls.
get to hang out with us.
Because there's a lot of value in those too. So
There sure is. So for anybody watching.
we're the groupie.
The groupies. I like that. What did somebody say recently? Somebody in one of our 97 Up calls, I think, said this. They said something like, the wonderful Seth world. I think it was Kelly who actually had to leave earlier. She said something about how I don't have the wonderful Seth world yet, referring to the fact that she doesn't have all these apps and things. I think that was very funny. Like the Magic Garden. All right.
All right, goodbye.
I'll go. So I will see you tomorrow morning for the Zoom in. We're doing Fundira with Meredith Wood. So make sure you join us because that's going to be a lot of fun. She's always a ton of fun to hang out with online.
Where is the time to do the work? And instead of working
in
on
my
the
webinars.
He doesn't sleep, and there are 3 of him, Alexa, or maybe 4. I used to think there were 2. Now I'm heading towards 4 of him.
I'm not finding time to do my work because I've spent so much time learning.
Well, obviously at a certain point you got to stop the learning and start putting it into practice. But no, I mean, you know what I do? I have my Mondays are completely dedicated to consulting work. And then Wednesdays are completely dedicated. So I block those days off of my calendar. Nobody's getting an appointment with me those days because that's when I focus on doing the consulting work that I have to keep up with. Tuesdays are content days for me, because we have our 97 and up call every Tuesday. So before and after that, I'm developing other content, more videos, courses, what have you. Same thing with Thursday, right? So Monday, Wednesday, consulting. Tuesday and Thursday are content days. And then somewhere in there, I leave like every other week. I'll take one of those days and leave it open for the one-on-one trainings that people have signed up for. Otherwise, they don't get on my calendar at all. So I just.
And he also works Saturdays and Sundays.
I don't actually. Saturdays,
He
if
works
anything.
12 hours a day, and there were 3 of him.
I don't. Saturdays actually I reserve for content exclusively. I will never take an appointment with somebody on a Saturday. Very, very.
But that's working. Content
very
is work.
Yeah, but it's not work to me. To me, it's fun. It's play. It's play that I can get paid for. So, all right, Ralphie's getting rowdy again. He wants me to let him out.
Yeah, Ralphie's waiting for you. He's missed his walk. He's supposed to go up the hills. All right, bye.
All right, I'll see you later.